as the Wailing Wall.
This sacred site looks much different today from what it did in 1967. All the open space was filled with squatter shacks then. In other words, the wall could be accessed only by a narrow alleyway. The soldiers rushed to the alley that day to touch the sacred wall. Some shouted praises to God. Others wept in thanksgiving. The chief rabbi of the Israeli army, Rabbi Shlomo Goren, also rushed to the wall. He blew a ram's horn in signal for silence. He then made a momentous announcement. I proclaim to you the beginning of the Messianic age.
For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
This city fell to the Gentiles 40 years after Jesus spoke those words. The Romans conquered it under Titus. The Romans were followed by the Byzantines by the Arabs by the Crusaders by the Mamluks by the Turks by the British, and the British by the Jordanians. Jerusalem was trampled by the Gentiles from 70 AD until 1967. On June the 7th, 1967, it passed back into the hands of the Jewish people for the first time in 1,897 years. We have completed our survey of fulfilled Bible prophecy in the land of Israel. The Jewish people have been regathered. The nation of Israel has been reestablished. The land of Israel has been reclaimed. The Hebrew language has been revived. The Israeli military has experienced a great resurgence in power, and Israel is once again the focus of world politics. And one other thing, the Jewish people have reoccupied the city of Jerusalem.
Where does this leave the Arabs? As descendants of Abraham's son, Ishmael, they too should certainly be mentioned in prophecy. They are, but the prophecies do not relate to the regathering of a people or the promise of land which Israel claims today. The prophecies in Genesis 16 and 17 that relate to the Arabs promise that the descendants of Ishmael will be great in number and will occupy all the lands to the east of Israel.
And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation.
This prophecy has undeniably been fulfilled. Today there are 200 million Arabs. There is only one Jewish state with a population of 5.2 million Jews. The Arab states contain 5.3 million square miles of oil-rich land. Israel has only 8,000 square miles of land. But what about the Palestinian people? Don't they deserve a state? Keep in mind that for 1,878 years, which is from 70 AD to 1948, the geographical area known as Palestine was never an independent state. It had become an uninhabitable wasteland, as the prophets predicted. There was no vision to create a Palestinian state because the few inhabitants that survived there regarded themselves as Syrians, and the primary area occupied by Palestinians became Jordan. Despite this, the Palestinians still consider Israel an occupied territory. In the 12th chapter of Zechariah, the prophet tells us that the conflict for the land will eventually bring all nations against Israel.
The burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith the Lord, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it.
With the tremendous violence currently taking place in Israel and around the Middle East, This prophecy is now unfolding right before our very eyes. But even more amazing is that the prophecy goes on to guarantee Israel divine intervention and protection in the escalating conflict.
In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem.
What does all this mean for you and me? First, it's important to consider the extraordinary realization that we are witnessing these events taking place during the time you and I are here on this earth. Events that were foretold to us thousands of years ago. If we could spin the clock back just a mere 100 years, virtually none of these prophecies about Israel would have any significance at all, because they seemed impossible. But now we are observing the impossible as a way of life. And despite the efforts of those who hate Israel and torment the nation, and others that support them with continued violence and suicide bombings, the world bears witness that it is a revived nation that has and will continue to fulfill this prophecy that was written in 750 BC by the prophet Amos.
Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that soweth seed. And the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. And I will bring again the captivity of my people of Israel. And they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. And they shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof. They shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them. And I will plant them upon their land, and they shall no more be pulled up out of their land which I have given them, saith the Lord thy God.
The more we all become aware of the history and the fulfillment of the destiny of the Jewish people, and the more the world is willing to accept it, the closer humanity will be to the dawn of peace in the Middle East, and to an understanding of the prophecy of Israel.